welcome to episode 8 of the All Hustle podcast. And as always, I'm joined by Marco.
What's up, guys?
Abdul.
What's up?
And Daniel, the newly minted Sportsnet author, as he had an Alphonso Davies piece published in Sportsnet. I'm very happy that he took time out of his day to join us on the pod again this week.
Hell yeah, I'm a big shot now.
Yeah, great. We're in the presence of greatness here.
Dan.
Yeah, so last week we got some big NBA news. Woj reported that it's no longer July 31st. It is now July 30th when the NBA season starts. So, it's nice. An earlier day to start the season. This week, we are doing our top 20 players in the NBA. Now, we have a few restrictions in place. We limited it to 35 games played this year. So the likes of KD, Kyrie, Klay Thompson, Steph Curry, Boogie Cousins, Jamal Crawford would not be included. I was kidding about the last two, of course. But later at the end, we'll discuss those 4 players and kind of how they would be put had they have been healthy or next season. Where would they be placed in our top 20? So I think we'll get started here. We'll go from 1 to 20. I'll start off with my first 5, and then we'll kind of just keep rotating. Number 1 for me, Kawhi Leonard. I mean, he had the best postseason last year, led the team to the championship. Still in his prime. I don't kind of see anyone else really taking it from him this year. LeBron James is at 2. I then had Giannis, Luka, and then James Harden. I was, a little difficult. I wanted Giannis to go higher, but, he has kind of a lack of postseason success, and you can't really count out LeBron James when he is in the postseason, despite his age. And then the Luka and Harden, they're just so dominant in the regular season this year, and the last year for Harden, that despite his kind of subpar performances in the postseason, I just think he's too dominant of a player to be left out of the top 5. And Luka, it's really exciting to see him this year in the playoffs, see what his medal is. So I had him at 4. I guess we'll go to Marco, because he had quite the reaction to Kawhi at 1. How did you kind of see your first 5 shaping up?
No. So we're talking about this regular season, but I am considering that we're going to have maybe a postseason, and I'm considering last year playoffs as well.
Mm-hmm.
My number 1 player is the player that if he had a star, he would probably win the championship in under 6 games against everybody. This is Giannis.
Okay.
I think when you have the best offensive game, like overall, not like the best scorer in the game, but the best offensive contribution overall and the best offensive contribution overall, you're kind of the best player. Obviously, he was shut down against the Raptors, but again, I always put it a little bit on that he doesn't have that wing player to help him bail him out sometimes. So I have Giannis number 1. I'm gonna go with LeBron James number 2. The man is having his best assist year in his career. Just reinventing himself as a player. Nothing much to say. Like come playoff time, you want LeBron on your team, like maybe ahead of everybody. This is kind of surprising, but I wanted to be very unorthodox for this list. I'm gonna have James Harden at number 3 and Kawhi at number 4. And you're gonna say why? Then I came to an article this week where the guys kind of dissected Harden's and Kawhi performance against Golden State, the same team, but Harden played 4 games against KD, and Harden had way better numbers. Okay, Kawhi won the chip. I'm not saying anything against it, but the Warriors were beaten up. You gotta know that KD was not playing, and Harden had better numbers. And I think if you put them in the same team in the regular season, Harden's gonna attract more wins because he's gonna play more games. I'm thinking about all of that. Maybe in the crunch time, I'm going to have Kawhi, definitely. But I'm not only playing for crunch time. I don't know if I'm going to get there. And I need a player that's going to play more games and give me more on a daily basis. Then I'm going to go Harden. And finishing at number 5, this is kind of hard because I don't trust this guy in the playoffs. But he has been really great, and that's Anthony Davis. He closes out my top 5.
Interesting. My first comment is, last season, who did you think had the best postseason?
Kawhi probably had the best postseason, yeah.
Okay. So, ranking him so low,
No, it's not that so low. Like LeBron was hurt and was on a trash Lakers team where the second best player was Lonzo Ball. And the Raptors are a really good team, man. Let's talk about value. Kawhi left, and they're better than they were with him. Obviously, only in the regular season. They're not going to win the championship this year, at least I think. But I got to put that into consideration, you know. And also, lucky bounce against the Sixers and did not stay healthy. KD out of the finals. Those you got to put those things into the mix, you know.
I mean, yeah, but what about the Milwaukee Raptors series?
man.
You
Okay.
could
Yeah,
make the
I
case
wanted to
that they're.
be. I wanted to be unorthodox. I'm saying my top is gonna get you guys very infuriated. Don't worry about it. I want it to be different than everyone else. I
Okay.
just don't see how you're gonna put Kawhi at number one when he doesn't even play like close to 80 games. I think that's important, you know. I have never seen Kawhi in a bad because that's the thing. He got into the league into a great team, which was the Spurs. Went to a great team, which was the Raptors. Went to a great team, which was the Clippers. He never had like adversity in his career, if you think about it. It's like you have never seen him with a bad cast, for example, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I put those kind of things. I don't know if he was not gonna thrive in a situation like that, but I haven't seen it, so I'm just going by that.
Interesting. I'll go to Daniel next.
Okay, so for number one, I got who I think is the best player in the world, and no one's taken that title from him. Maybe Kevin Durant would have something to say about that if he was healthy, but it's LeBron James. Interesting stat here. His assist percentage is almost 50%. So that means he's assisting on half of his teammates' buckets when he's on the floor this year.
Wow.
And he's 35 years old. He's doing that, and he's still scoring on top of that. And, you know, when it comes to the playoffs, he's going to be doing that at an even higher level. So to me, he's still a number one player in the world. Number two, I got Kawhi Leonard. Last year's championship run solidified that he's maybe even the best player in the world. His impact on both ends of the floor, his ability to create offense, like no matter how tight the defense is. He has to be ahead of Harden. Like if those two guys go head to head, who's going to be more effective? Kawhi's going to shut down Harden and then put up 30 on the other side. I think that's just, you can't have Harden over Kawhi. Number three, I got Giannis. Another guy you could argue is the best in the world the way he's been playing, but because of some of his offensive limitations, couldn't put him higher. Like we saw last playoffs when they went up against the Raptors. Four, I do have James Harden. Playoffs are always an issue for him, and I don't love his style of play. But in the regular season, like he's just doing it every year, scoring, assists. He has to be in the top five at the very least. And to round out my top five, I have Anthony Davis, efficient player who is phenomenal on both ends of the floor, and sometimes he's the best player on the Lakers, and that's on a team with LeBron James. So that rounds out my top five.
Interesting. Abdul?
I don't like how this is becoming a trend, but me and Daniel have like similar lists all the time now. I actually have the same list, except Davis and Harden are flipped as far at 4 and 5. LeBron was a difficult one. I kind of tugged a bit between him and Kawhi, but like I think when you take into account body of work, and also like what he's able to do at his age, like you don't really notice like he slowed down a little bit athletically, but like he's just that durable and he's that good of a player that he just makes it work regardless. And his assist percentage and the way he's been able to like lead the Lakers this year has been something amazing to watch. He's flipped the narrative on what he really looks like in the end. Kawhi, I think on his end, I know there are people as big of a fan of like the whole load management stuff and whatever. Some may say he takes plays off, but like I just think when it really counts and in the biggest of moments, like he's there. He has a switch that he's able to turn, and he just creates offense. He can create something out of nothing for himself. Like he's not the fastest guy. He's not jumping over guys at the rim or anything, but he always manages to find a way to get to his spots and hit the shots that he needs to make. He's still relatively efficient, not as efficient as last year, but the difference is not that much really. He's just a dominant player. Like he plays both ends. He's a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year winner. Like there isn't much else you can say about Kawhi. With Giannis, this one, I know he's considered the most dominant player by a lot of people, but something I counted for on my list was how unstoppable or stoppable you can be, and I think that's where he falls a bit below these two guys. There is more of a way to stop Giannis than the first two guys I mentioned. So, but as dominant as he is, he still deserves to be within the top three, I think. I think he's that good of a player. And even considering like some of the limitations in his game, he's still a phenomenal player. I have Davis at 4 just because of his impact on both ends of the floor, as well as being able to be that great of a scorer on just about every level, as well as his rebounding and his shot blocking ability, you name it, even switchability on defense. And then Harden, I had to put at 5. His numbers are you cannot ignore, nor can you ignore his talent. I think we almost take for granted how good of a player he really is, because most guys in the league can't stop this guy. Period.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, he's at 5.
It's funny. I had AD at 4 and Harden at 5 too. I just switched it like just before we did this pod. So
You guys are contradicting yourselves. If you say like Harden cannot be ahead of Kawhi, there is no way AD can be ahead of Harden. Man never goes to the playoffs. You don't even see him there.
I don't think that matters. Like it's just about the impact on the game.
But
like,
in the times that he's been to the playoffs, his numbers are ridiculous.
Well, Harden's numbers are also
If you-
ridiculous, but he loses most of the time. But his numbers are also really good.
Yeah, I think
AD's situation was just worse.
I think this postseason will tell us a lot about, all of these players. Like if Giannis falters again in the playoffs, you might have to knock him down a couple more pegs, even though he is so dominant in the regular season, right?
Yeah, that's the point. I don't think this season is gonna say much because of the coronavirus, but it was gonna say much if it was like a regular postseason, but it's not gonna be. So I don't know how much we can take these last 12 games into account or 20 games into account. That we're probably gonna see at the end of July, because it's gonna be so different than it was gonna be before. So it's kind of strange to me.
Yeah.
I still think like Harden, even though like sure he puts up some stats in the playoffs, like they always dip, and his efficiency dips even more. So I don't know. He loses points for me. To me, he's not like you could argue, and you're forgetting defensive like what Davis offers defensively versus Harden.
Yeah, of course. Davis is one of the best.
Davis is a menace.
So we'll go to you, Marco, then for your 6 to 10.
Okay. My number 6 spot is a guy that would be higher had him made it to the playoffs before. That's Doncic. I think he had the most impressive regular season, not the best, but like the most impressive. Because like second year, almost a triple-double average, very efficient, making a very bad. Not that was okay, but like he's making them be really good when he's on the floor. So you gotta be. He's not in my top 5 just because I never seen him in the playoffs. I don't know how can he play when everyone is gonna be guarding him. Like the Clippers, 4 guys to throw at him. I don't know if it's gonna be as good as he usually is, but that's the only reason. At number 7, as I gotta put in my man, it's Russell Westbrook. As I say,
yes.
You put Westbrook in any team, this team is going to the playoffs. That's obvious. And I think he's playing really well under the new Rocket system. I think they could have won way more games. But the one reason I have him at 7 and not like out of the top 10 is because the next 3 guys, they give me headaches, and they are like Joel Embiid in 8. If he was healthy, he would be top 5. He's never healthy. Nikola Jokic at 9. I think he's really good, but I just don't know. I just think he's not as he doesn't have as much star power to be up high. I don't know if you guys get what I mean. I think like Jokic needs somebody else with him, like maybe to take the scoring load. But I love his style of play. He's a very good player. And at number 10, and I wish this guy was higher, but like Damian Lillard was phenomenal last year playoffs. But the Blazers are out of the playoffs this year, so you got to put that into consideration. He played like majority of games with CJ McCollum. They're out of the top. They're not a top 8 seed in the West. Come on, I got to see better than that. If not, maybe if it wasn't for this, at least Embiid and Lillard would be ahead of Westbrook. But I got to take in this season into consideration. And when the Blazers are not in the picture, that dips Lillard case to me.
Are you forgetting about postseason last year when Damian Lillard had, he had.
I just said it. I think if it was last season, I'd say, Lillard is way ahead of Russell Westbrook. But then this season, he's not. That's the point. The minimum thing you got to be when you're a top 10 player is get to the playoffs.
But the Blazers have been injury ravaged, and Westbrook has a guy named James Harden next to him.
But like
it's an awful team.
McCollum played like close to 60 games each. It's not like they haven't played games at all. I think they played like 58 and 56. They have been in the most games of the season together. So I don't see really how can they be out of the playoffs right now. Especially against Memphis, led by a rookie.
Who's their next best player, Marco, this year?
Sorry?
Who is the Blazers' next best player this year?
Probably CJ McCollum.
No, after
CJ and Dame.
Yeah, that would be Whiteside. I know that's not very impressive.
That's mellow.
Oh.
So there you go. There's your answer for why they're not in the playoffs. But I get the criticism, but still.
It's a hair. It's a hair. If I see the play both season, probably I'm gonna have Lillard higher again. But I gotta factor that in.
Yeah.
I'm going to bite my tongue and wait, but...
it's okay. Let's rebuttal through our 5s.
Yeah. Daniel, go ahead with your 6 to 10.
So at 6, I have Luka Doncic as well. He's having just an incredible year. And, if you're picking who to start your franchise with, I think, at least 70% of the GMs would pick Doncic.
Yeah.
So, I was a little uncertain of putting him high just because, it's only one season and maybe next year he comes and he flops or he dips a bit and, it's 1 year. We don't really know that he can do this for 10 years straight. But at the same time, he might come in next year and do even better. So still, based off this year, I'm putting him at 6. Number 7, I have Dame Lillard. And I will say, there's a dip now. From the top 6 to 7, there's just a dip in the quality of player. But I think Lillard deserves it. Based off postseason play last year and just what he's doing this season. Then I have Nikola Jokic, who I thought of putting ahead of Lillard, honestly, because even though Portland beat Denver last year, watching those games, it felt like Jokic was the most impactful player. But it's just hard with Jokic because, some games he's not that effective or you just don't notice him that much. Whereas someone like Dame is literally going hard all game long, every game. And I don't know, it's tough, but I think he's having a better year this year. So that's why Dame's ahead. Then I have Joel Embiid, and he's having a good year. Last year he was incredible. If you're talking about performance in the playoffs, he's iffy. But he's one of those cases where if he was healthy and giving full effort all the time, he could be top 5. Maybe even, I don't know, he'd be among the best in the world. There's no doubt. but never plays to that potential. And then I have rounding out my top 10, and this one might be controversial, but I have Paul George.
Okay.
So
Abdul's shocked. All right.
yeah, Abdul.
Wow.
I had to do it to have a different list than him, you know.
Yeah.
But,
You were already different. Don't worry.
to me, like, two-way player who can score in every single way, and he's a solid playmaker for his size. And yeah, he's not having a great start this year, but I don't care. Like, I still want him on my team. Like, he defends super well, can score in any way. There's a reason why, like, when Kawhi and PG teamed up, everyone lost their minds.
I haven't.
You didn't care? You thought, oh, they're gonna suck?
No, I thought it was pretty good, but it wasn't like, oh my god, yeah. No, it was like, yeah, good. That's good.
All right. Well, I think this year, like, he deserves a pass on, like, subpar play, but it's not like he played terribly either.
I think it's the injury concerns for me that kind of make me a little queasy. I think he had like double shoulder surgery. He's had a lot of like little injuries throughout the past couple of years. Just give me a little bit of pause of like, yeah, when he is healthy, he's a top 10 player. But for me, in the past couple of seasons, it's been dicey keeping him healthy.
It's true, and that affected him last playoffs.
100%, yeah.
But you can spin it the other way, like the fact that he keeps coming back from these injuries and playing super well and finding his groove. To me, is that could be worth something.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's a good point. All right, Abdul.
All right, so my 6 is Jokic. Again, this one is based off being stoppable or unstoppable. I think he started off slow, but one thing I took into heavy consideration was how beat up the Nuggets were for a while. They had a lot of injuries this year to the point where Michael Porter Jr. was getting consistent. And he was barely getting minutes at the beginning of the year. So I think that says a lot. He lost Jamal Murray amongst other guys. Like, it's been a crazy year for Denver, and they're still 4th in the West. He averages about 20, 10 and 7 or 20, 11 and 7. I just think he's not like the best defensive player, but on the offensive end, I think what he can do and how little the amount of guys are in the league that could actually stop him from doing what he wants to do is really low. His scoring numbers might not be up but for a big man to average 7 assists a game and being the level of rebounder he is, like, it's not like he's playing next to other bigs that are dominant rebounders as well. He's kind of just there. He mans that post for them, and he does a lot for them. So I'm giving him the go at 6. At 7, I have Doncic. I don't think there's much to say on this one that y'all haven't said. He's been amazing this year, and Dallas is easily going to be making it into the playoffs. He kind of shows his inexperience kind of shows up as far as like games against some teams like the Clippers where they have some top tier defenders and they're able to slow him down. I still think he's a great player, and his potential is ridiculous, and he has a bright future too. But for now, I think 7 is good with him. At 8, I have Dame. I've always respected Dame's game, but I think this year he really took it to another level. I know that they're not making they may or may not make the playoffs, but they've also had a really bad year as far as injuries go, and they've lost depth because of free agency, so that's another factor. I just think, not even from a number standpoint, but as far as takeover ability goes, I think he's really flexed that a lot this year. So that was really nice to see. Not to say he wasn't able to do it before, but like he just took it to a different level this year. 9, I have Westbrook.
Wow.
I know he can't. Again, biases were put aside here in this list for me, but for Westbrook, I know he can't shoot, but I think what he's capable of doing and what he's done this year, considering he can't shoot, I think speaks a lot to the type of player he is. He's having his most efficient year as far as field goal percentage goes, and he's playing on a team where that fits his style best, where they just have shooters spread out, and he's able to just find clear lanes to the rim, which is what he does best. And for a really good Houston team averaging 27, some people had questions how it would work with Harden, but I think he's made it work for himself, especially the last like month and a half before the season was suspended. He really showed a lot. And then rounding out my 10, this one I kind of debated on, but Embiid is my 10. I think health definitely played a factor for him this year, but when he's healthy and, as Daniel said, going full go, he's one of the most dominant players in the league, especially at his size and strength, able to shoot from the mid-range with no problem at all. A lot of guys at that position cannot guard him, so at 10 I have Embiid.
I had Lillard at 6. He's getting better every year. We kind of said everything we need to say about him. I had Anthony Davis at 7. He's kind of lower than everyone else was thinking. I just haven't seen the postseason success, which, I mean, it's hard when you're on like a crappy Pelican team the whole time. Jokic is 8. I had him over Embiid. I was debating between the two a lot, but the advanced stats loved Jokic, and that playmaking ability, the ability to just dominate a game like that, I had him over Embiid. And then at 10, I had Bradley Beal, which is, yeah. Now my reasoning, obviously he's been on an absolute, horrific Wizards team for so long. But statistically, he's getting better every year, and he's commandeered the offense. He's at like a career high in points, usage, everything. I think if he was on a better team, he would show that he is a top 10 player in the league right now. And just because he's been on this Wizards team, people aren't seeing it. He got left out of the All-Star game this year, which was an absolute joke. And like going back against Westbrook and Beal, like who would I rather take? I would rather have Bradley Beal just as a player. I mean, that shooting ability, he's improved a lot in his assist. And I mean, if he actually had other wing players with him or just someone else who was a competent player, you would see that he was so good. So I had him at 10. I know it's very high, controversial, but I just see that potential had he be on a good team for him to be so high. So that'll do it for part 1 of our top 20 players in the NBA. Our part 2, which will be coming out later, will dive into our 11 to 20th ranked players, along with honorable mentions, and where the likes of Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Klay Thompson, and Steph Curry would rank had they have been healthy this year, or going into next season, how they would have been. Thank you guys so much for liking, subscribing to the podcast, and if you could give it a 5-star rating, it would really help us with our growth as a podcast. So thank you, and see you guys next time.